In October of 1938, Orson Welles created a supposed mass hysteria with his rendition of H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds on CBS radio. He cut in with a special announcement about things happening on Mars, a spacecraft landing in New Jersey, and even vaporous clouds emanating over New York City. The states were in a tizzy at what they were hearing. They couldn't believe it. People thought it was real. But that was back in the 1930s. Something like that couldn't happen in, like, say, the 1990s, could it? Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the answer is yes, it could happen in the 90s. I'm Sean Mazeral, and welcome to Nocturnal Horrors. The BBC channel used their long and storied shows with their anchors, presenters, and reporters that everyone in Britain knew they could trust. But the BBC decided to flip their script on all of that on Halloween 1992. Ghostwatch appeared as part of the BBC anthology Screen 1. The mockumentary was played off as a live event, and people could even call into the studio to tell their own ghost stories on this wonderful night. They were watching well-known personas such as Michael Parkinson, Sarah Green, Mike Smith, and Craig Charles investigate a haunted house. And as the live event unfolds, so too does the scares in the haunted house. People were calling in to get a hold of Michael Parkinson to tell him that they saw something inside the house during the live event. They wanted to make sure their reporters got out safe and sound. Some 30,000 calls were made during the live event, and because so many calls were coming into the BBC switchboard, the lines went busy, creating an even bigger panic. The people of Britain were scared. They were confused. But they were duped. After Ghostwatch aired, there was a huge amount of backlash towards the channel. There was so much backlash that the UK has never aired the show again. There was, however, a DVD 10 years later and also behind-the-scenes film about it. There was huge criticism across the board because a lot of the audience thought it was unfair that they took people that they knew and trusted in these anchors and news reporters and had them spin a lie. But BBC came back and said it was actually a work of fiction and always had been. Several children were on record as saying they suffered from PTSD because of this live event, and there's even a suicide that's connected to Ghostwatch. With all that being said, is Ghostwatch truly scary? After all, this was a TV event that shook up an entire country. To see this film in 2019 as opposed to Halloween night of 1992, it's a lot different. But let's be fair, this is well before things like the Blair Witch Project, those found footage films, and all those mockumentary films. Thus, Ghostwatch, just like Orson Welles' stint in the 30s, was well ahead of its time. Now, this event does start off slow because they're introducing their reporters, their anchors, everyone live in studio, who's taking the phone calls. So it does start off slow. But when they do finally get into the haunted house, it does start to pick up, and it picks up dramatically, and it really gets going. The transition between the sort of, this is going to be a fun Halloween night, where the reporters are joking and having laughs about the paranormal in general, really turns quickly, but it does take a little bit of time for them to get into that haunted house. And this event uses all the tricks in the book. It uses bumps in the night. It uses off-camera sounds. It uses audio tapes. It uses everything you can possibly think of to make a scare without it really being on the screen. There's figures in the reflections. There are cats screeching, and those cats are pretty legit creepy. They do everything they can to make your skin crawl. And to a certain extent, it really works. I mean, I try to put myself in the shoes of people who were actually viewing that in real time, and I gotta say, that would creep me out too. There's no doubt in my mind that I would have been like everyone else in the country, asking myself, is this really happening? This is really happening, isn't it? Should I call in? What is going on? There is no doubt that I would have done that same thing. Ghostwatch feels real, for the most part. There are a couple really kooky moments, and there's some stuff that's way over the top, but I really think overall it definitely works and it's fun. And I'm watching in retrospect, decades later, but I gotta say, if people that I knew and trusted said these crazy things to me, why wouldn't I believe them? Why wouldn't I believe people that I came to know and trust? As a standalone film, it's pretty good. As a moment in time culturally, it's absolutely brilliant. It did to Britain what Jaws did to anyone who wanted to go swimming in the ocean. It did what Psycho did to anyone who was about to take a shower. It seems to have had that sort of power. The writer of Ghostwatch, Stephen Volk, even wrote a short story that stood as the sequel to Ghostwatch, in which he goes a decade later to the studio where all the mayhem took place. This is a fun one, so if you haven't seen this before, please go take a look and check it out. It's definitely worth it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please tune in tomorrow for day 2 of 31 Days of Horror. Thanks.